Thank you, and very glad I will be here, share my experience with you. And first is a short introduction about myself. Yeah. I came in Holland in 2013, so until now I have lived 3 years in Holland, and at this moment I'm teaching Chinese culture and language in some Dutch schools. Before 2013, I have studied and lived in China for like 13 years. I have worked 5 years in tourism and 5 years in an international school. So you can say all my working experience is like between this Western and the Chinese culture and more of introducing China to foreigners. So today we are talking about tourism. It's about like eating, living, transferring, what people will do during the tourism. And in the following 40 minutes, I will introduce what the Chinese expectations, and behind those expectations, what are the differences in cultural, and also the typical Chinese tourists, and do and don't, and also opposite. And the last is question. And first, what do Chinese people expect of Europe or Holland? And here, very, very long time ago, I mean, for the generations, and I think education, they placed a very important role. Like nowadays, they were born in 90s, those kids, they speak in very good English. They come from different resources to get information. They read English, and also themselves, they're working and even self-studying abroad. So what's their idea about Europe and Holland is very different than like my parents, that generation. And also the location is also very different. Like I was born in Datong. Is this piece? Get it?
Small buttons.
Yeah, get it here. So it's where I was born. And later on, I went to Xi'an for my university education. There's only piece on the map. It takes 16 hours on the train. So you can imagine how big China is a country. And my hometown, Datong, is like a relatively small city. So when my husband, he's Dutch, and when he went to Datong, and the people was really staring at him. So like this. So he need to learn, so why do you look at me in a local dialect? But when I go to Xi'an, the people there are very different. So you can imagine the people in a relatively like big city like Xi'an, Beijing, or Shanghai, they seeing foreigners every day. They living and working in their cities. So their picture about a foreign country is also very different than like the small cities and even definitely in the countryside. And then what do people expect from the Europe and from Holland? And first, what they think about the foreign country. Like my mother's generation, the whole world is China. It's China and foreigners' country. And in China, the Chinese people call foreigners 大鼻子 of 老外. 大鼻子 means big nose, so it speaks for itself. It's from the appearance. And another way they call them 老外. So literally that means 老 means old and 外 means foreign. So old foreign, that's foreigners. Some people, they don't like these terms, but I think it's rather a cute one, because in Chinese, 老师 is teacher. So 老 in this case have something to do with knowledge, because teacher is passing the knowledge. And boss is 老板. So in this case, the 老 has something to do with like authority and respect. And you call your husband and wife 老公 and 老婆. So in this case, 老 also have something to do with love. And after all, we call our good friends 老友. So in this case, it also has something to do with friendship. So maybe for foreigners, they have all of this as a combination, a bit authority, a bit knowledgeable, a bit like love. So all in all, they call them 老外. And of course, later on, people find out, oh, there is a Europe in all of this foreigners' country. But people consider, especially Chinese people, they consider Europe as one big piece. Like several days ago, my friend, he said, hey, what is the weather there? My parents will travel to Europe, and do they need to bring the heavy jacket? I said, yeah, but where? He said, not sure. Spain? Sweden? I said, yeah, that's very different. So for them, it's like, it's Europe. And of course, finally, people find out there is Holland in Europe. And first, they know this country from a football team. Although Chinese football team, they didn't play very well, but they admire those good ones. And then they say, oh, it's a beautiful country with flowers and windmills. Of course, they don't know all of these rainy days. And finally, these milk powders. Maybe you all know that in 2008, the milk powder scandal, and so the Chinese people, they don't trust any local product anymore, and they found, oh, Holland produces the best quality milk powders in the world. So the milk powder nowadays in China is a new image for Holland. And of course, it's a more like a general image of Holland, very open to all kinds of things. Yeah. Oh. And what do they really expect from this eating, living, and those things? First, eating is very important. I think we all get the idea. We get dinner before we have a presentation. And more important is that in Holland, you eat the breakfast and lunch for bread and cold, and only once for dinner is warm. But in China, we eat 3 times warm, and especially for lunch and dinner, they are the same. So the restaurants, they open for lunch and dinner, they provide exactly the same dishes. And so this could be a very typical lunch. It's a very heavy lunch. But that's not necessary to be big, but it needs to be warm. I mean, the first time I came to Holland for vacation, it's about 10 days, and that's the first time I went on vacation and I lose weight. Because I feel like there is a lot to eat, but I always feel that I'm hungry because it's cold. I really feel like in the morning you need to drink the cold milk from the fridge. It's really unbelievable. That's why Chinese tourists, they eat a lot of instant noodle and also the spicy sauce when they travel. So instant noodle, it's very easy. You should just got some hot water and then you make yourself a warm, nice, and tasteful lunch or even breakfast. And for some very famous tourism attraction, and they call Chinese people CN. Of course, that's an abbreviation for Chinese, but not in this case. CN in this case stands for cup noodles. And they think Chinese people, they eat so much cup noodles. And first they thought maybe they are not, they cannot afford to eat outside. But finally they found out it's just a cultural difference, because even if they had a very luxurious Western food, they still need to have a cup noodle at the hotel and to get that satisfaction from food. Especially this sauce, if you've been to China, you know that the Chinese food, they are really tasty, spicy, and so this sauce is very easy to give some taste to your noodle, rice, even bread. So every local Chinese who travel abroad or they have been living abroad, they know this. They know this brand, and it's in every Chinese supermarket if you went to anyone in Holland. And of course, they can also go to the Chinatown to have a relatively authentic Chinese food. And I also noticed that some Dutch people, when they travel, go to Mongolia, they say, oh, there is a restaurant, the owner is Dutch. We can go there to visit them and to find out what their living experience in Mongolia, or etc. And we Chinese also go to the Chinatown, but the first purpose is to go there to eat, not to meet the people. So I think this is really a difference. And even nowadays, a lot of people, they travel in Europe and they really bring all of this cooking stuff and to cook on themselves. and then hotels. And also people sometimes ask me that, hey, I've heard that those yin and yang and those feng shui things in China, do we need to do something specifically for the hotel because it's where you live? I would say no, because the feng shui and those things is more like your permanent living place, like your house. And even when people died, they think that like where they were buried, the graveyard is also a part of feng shui. But when they're traveling, those feng shui and those yin yang things is not so important as this thing. This kettle. In every Chinese hotel, they have this kettle, so Chinese people can boil some hot waters. Hot water is really the national beverage for Chinese people, and it was provided everywhere in Chinese public places, bank, airport, train station, you name it. And you might think that Chinese people like tea. Yes, we like tea, but not so much as hot water. So for the hotel, I think this really makes a difference if you have this. That's why a lot of Chinese people travel abroad nowadays. They also choose to stay in Airbnb because they can cook. And for all, they can have a cup of hot water whenever they want. And I travel in Europe, will bring this thing. So it really makes a difference for me. And transferring. Chinese, like you say, that China is so big, and we are so get used to like long distance travel. And so maybe for you, like 2 hours on the train is relatively long, but for us, it's no problem. And most of the Chinese tourists, they travel in the bus in Europe. And also for most of the young people, and they travel with train. So it's very independent, it's relatively fast. So you can even buy these train tickets in Chinese travel blog. So it's really very popular and it's not really a problem. And then sightseeing. For sightseeing, what I want to say is that, of course, the typical nice Dutch things and hay tour. But there's once I attend a presentation from the Belgium Travel Bureau. So they find out the most popular travel destination in Brussels for Chinese people is a working building for European Union. So yeah, and they didn't, of course, they didn't expect that at all. So what their conclusion is that what we think nice is not what they finally think nice. So we really need to think from their point of view, what they like it. Like I will talk to Dutch people about hay tour. Also, a lot of people never heard of hay tour. But if you go to all the Chinese travel blogs and all the social medias, and hay tour is like a fairy tale place for Holland. So it's really, really popular, especially among those young individual groups. So I think what we can do probably is just to tell them as much as possible about Holland, and they can find out what they like. I think social media or the travel blog, and you will get more information from other speakers in other sessions. And one example is that maybe you will notice that why there's no Chinese tourists would go to the Dutch beach. Dutch people like that, just lying down and have a cup of beer and get brown. But Chinese people, they don't like. Of course, there is the culture difference about what they don't want to get brown. But also it's an example like what they like, what they find interesting. And then it's entertaining. That's another like contrast when they go back to China. Because in China, for all of these tourists, you can always get the evening show, like the opera or acrobatics and even Kung Fu. That's specifically designed for the tourists when the Chinese people travel in China, and even for the foreigners travel in China. So, and even if you just walk around on the street, you will see those, we call that 广场舞. So it's like most of the middle-aged women, they will just dancing in the public square. They call that a kind of exercise. So the Chinese people, they come to Europe, they also think like, hey, we just walk around, we see some nice things, and then they find very disappointed. Of course, in the bars or the people, they get together, but most of people, they just go back home and to eat with their families. And even more, the shops are closed. They find that unbelievable. They say, oh, I saw a big sales sign, but it's closed. So, because in China, all the shops, they were open until like 10:30 in the evening. So that means like after their work and they get like together with friends or family, they just go relax the shopping. But here, it's all closed. So they don't understand this capitalism country. And shopping. Of course, you know that Chinese people shopping a lot. They get a queue to buy a brand bag, or they get an iPhone, or even now they queue up in the Atos to get the milk powder. But behind all of these behaviors, why do they shop so much? Have you got any idea?
What was the question? What was the question?
Why do Chinese people shopping so much?
Because they like to give gifts.
They like to give gifts.
They like to give gifts.
To?
Back home.
Yeah.
Friends, family.
Yeah, very nice. Yeah. And other reasons?
Because it is real.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. That's from the economical perspective. It's real, it's cheap, and it's safe for them to get that. And also status if they get the certain things. But like the status, these things, I think it's a culture thing. Like in Western, people live more like an individual. Like I want to be different. But in China, it's like we live in a group, and I want to be the same. I don't want to be different. So from this photo, it's my primary school photo. And what do you see from this photo?
Similar clothes.
Yeah, similar clothes, especially this white shirt. Especially almost everybody have a white shirt. Why is that? So it's like the group idea is like your friends have one white shirt, and in this period the white shirt is very popular. So if you want to blend into that group, you better also have a white shirt. So in my primary, the white shirt is like today's iPhone or a Gucci bag. So it's a kind of status. They want to blend into that group, and sometimes they have to. So that's one reason they shopping a lot. And another is that Guanxi. Family is one part of the Guanxi. So what does this Guanxi mean? Guanxi means connection. So in Western, your Guanxi is more separate. It's like maybe this piece is your classmates from high school, and this one is your hobby club, and this is your working relationships. But in China, it's like zzz, all together. So your colleagues might be in your hobby club, and your friends might be your business partner. And I think you also get like other sections to learn more about the trust in Chinese culture. So this is also about that. So this Guanxi, when you want to like sell something in Holland, you might contact that company and to say what you provide is what they want. But in China, you might first find out who knows somebody from that company. So that's Guanxi. So it's like what you need. You always rely on the people you know and who you work with, and of course you need to spend a lot of time and energy and money to maintain this Guanxi when you need them. And that's why they buy a lot of gifts. And you might buy stroopwafels for your colleagues. It's kind of obligated, even especially if you travel abroad. And you might got a very nice LV bag for your business partner. So it's a way to show that you care about them and you want to maintain this relationship. So it's very important. And of course, another very much obligation is about your family members. So it's very important. And you can see even from the traditional Chinese living place, the courtyard, and most of the parents will live here, and their kids will live in both sides married kids. So you probably live with your in-laws and also your nephews together. So they help each other. They live every day together with each other, help each other out. So this family relationship is much more close than in the West. So it's for them, it's very important, and they just bring gift for everyone. So it's also like a party if somebody travel abroad and when they come back, so everyone will get a gift. And another very special way of traveling is for Chinese people, they travel with colleagues. And I have been at least received more than 100 groups as a tour guide, but I never see any foreigners. They travel with their colleagues to China. And maybe in Holland, you can have one day out with your colleagues or even 2 or 3 days short trips, but they will never travel to China with their colleagues. But in China, it's very common. So the companies and schools, they organize this kind of trip for their employees. So they also consider that as a way to strengthen their connection, their working connection. So as the Guanxi from another side, they will be strengthening. And in this case, you will also see another cultural phenomenon is that the leader plays a far more bigger role than in Western culture. Western culture, if you say a group of colleagues they travel, you don't know who is the boss. But in China, it will very easy. You can very easily tell who is the boss. So the boss not only plays a role in the work, it also plays a role when you travel. And of course, when you come out to travel with your boss, it's another way to strengthen your working relationship. So you will not like to against your boss during this travel. So also, the boss will make the decision during the travel. So this is one way Chinese people will like sort of travel to Europe. And also other typical Chinese behaviors, of course, that's not nice. Of course, they speak very loud and they always say like, I want this, I want that, and also they jump in the queue. It's not nice. And the Chinese government, they're also doing something to like improve that. They give everybody a little brochure if you travel abroad, what you should do, and yeah. So they are doing things like that. But it's also like the different generations, the young generations, they are much, much better. So they are more well educated. Like I said, they also see how the foreigners like behave when they travel. But I mean, there's one thing I noticed that is that I myself also get more like quiet, more patient when I came to Holland. I feel like in China, you get very high pressure is that if you don't speak out for yourself, you will be ignored. Nobody listen to you. You need to fight for yourself. It's very typical example is that in Chinese restaurant, and you need to say 服务员, that basically means waiter. So you need to hardly call them. But in Europe, you need to make eye contact and nicely, and they also don't look at you most of the time. So it's sort of you just speak out for yourself. Otherwise, nobody will come to you say, "What do you want?" I think that's a habit they already had. So even if they know that's not nice, but it's very difficult for them. Just one moment, just gone. And do's and don'ts. Of course, if the Dutch people, and like I saw the document in Heitorn, they speak very good Chinese, but it's always nice even if you just say hello, bye bye, thank you, those simple words. That makes a difference. And also, you maybe all know the like Chinese and Japanese, they had war before, and especially those people in Northwest. So they have a Northeast. Yeah, they have a very like patriotic spirit. So instead of saying, "Are you Japanese?" I think another way to say "Where are you from?" is more open. If you say "Are you from China?" to a Japanese, maybe they also find like, "Yeah, we are Asian, but we are different." And then it's a clear advice about tips. I mean, as a tour guide, I received a lot of a lot of times tips. But as a traveler myself, I always confused that how much tips should I give? Of course, I don't want to like offend to give a little bit, but of course I also don't want to be full, like to have to give extra more. And I think it's because that we didn't live in a tip country. Although I have made a lot of experience with the tips, but I don't know it myself. And I'm amazed that for like 2 or 3 days trip in Xi'an, when I was a local guide in Xi'an, I almost get exactly the same amount of tips, especially from Americans. So I guess they grow up with this tip culture and they know exactly what is appropriate. So I think that might be more clear if you say 10 is a normal, 10 percentage it's a normal, or 15 is very good, or like those. It make me feel more safe. I think most of the Chinese is also. And also about the private questions. There's also a lot of discussion about the private questions because Chinese people, they might ask directly, are you married? Do you have kids? Those are still okay, but sometimes they do really direct say, what is your monthly salary? So I feel like for Dutch people, they are very honest and direct. They think, if you ask me, I need to give a number, 2,531. But I think for Chinese people, it's not their purpose. They want to have an idea about what is the life like standard here. Look, we know how much this costs, but how much do they earn? So what is sort of the relationship between income and spend? So they want to have a comparison with their own country. So it might be also the same way in Chinese thinking is being a bit indirect. So you can say like the minimum wages here is 1,500, and I got a bit more than that. So they get a general idea about, oh, okay, 1,500. So you go out to eat once 100. So maybe people don't eat out so much. So they just get an idea. And of course, this is in the elevator. What do you see in this picture? Yeah, there's no numbers 13 and 14 because the pronunciation of 4 and that in Chinese is very similar. One is 4 and another is 死. So we consider 4 is unlucky. And you might think, yeah, I've lived 3 years in Holland. You might think, oh, that goes away. But I think those things you once in there and you believe that it's very difficult to get rid of. And there's once I get a seat in the airplane is 44. I'm really upset about that, and I finally decided to change a seat. I think 44 is really too much. And after I get my driver's license, I need to buy a second-hand car. And yeah, driving is not my hobby, and it really takes a long time. And finally, I got that automatic driver's license. So I need to buy an automatic car. The second-hand car, as you know, with the automatic is very limited. The choices are very limited. So we go through a long list about the price and everything. Finally, this car comes out. It's nice color and nice price. And at the last moment, I thought, what? The number plate is 54. And 5 has the same pronunciation as I. So 54 translated into Chinese language is I'm dead. So yeah, although it really takes a long time and energy to find out this, but I think I definitely don't want to drive a car that I'm dead. Yeah, it's really strange. Even though I already lived in Holland for so many years and I already made so much experience with Western culture, but I still think it's very much. And this, what do you say? This map? Yeah, one is colorful. yeah, it's very difficult to find in a so big country. But look carefully. Here is one piece extra, and here no. And this is the Taiwan. I don't know what should be after. This is a Taiwan or this is a Taiwan province. There is once we had a meeting in the international school in China I have worked, and there is we call that an emergency meeting because one foreign teacher, they used a map, this one, simply because that's English, so they think it's easier. But one student, they are very upset, and this is really, you know, Chinese students, they are most of the time, they are very quiet and nice. But they stand out, they just confront the teacher, which is not common. They said, this map is not right, and you missed something. And the teacher was, what? And finally, they found out that because on that map, there is no Taiwan. So, and finally, we have a conclusion that in the school, whenever the Chinese teacher or foreign teacher use map, always make sure Taiwan is included. And also for Chinese people come to Holland or Holland people come to China, I highly suggest that don't involve in any like political discussion, because what we have got from education and through the social media, all the information is very different than what you have. So we, through all of this censorship and certain things, what our information from maybe so much, and yours maybe so much. So if you want to listen to their opinion or their ideas about Taiwan, and you can ask, but better just not go into a discussion or try to persuade them because it's not right. And the last one, this green hat. And maybe you know that green hat in China, especially for a man, if a Chinese man have a green hat, that means his wife has cheated on him. So for Chinese people, it could be very surprised and even confused if they traveled in Europe and meet this St. Patrick's Day. Why are those men are so happily wear this green hat? Yeah, so it's just the topic we're talking about, the culture difference. The culture, once you have experienced that, it just sit in you. It's very difficult to get rid of or ignore them. So it's the same as the Chinese tourists, they come to Holland. Yeah. So this is my presentation and questions.